I set myself the challenge to watch every single episode of Doctor Who ever made, from 1963 right up until the modern era. And up until now, that just meant watching Doctor Who. But it turns out Doctor Who is not one show. Doctor Who is actually like 7 shows, one of which is 3 shows wearing a trench coat. So today we're watching K9 and Company, a pilot for a proposed Doctor Who spin-off that only lasted 1 episode in 1981. Basically, the producers of Doctor Who at the time realised that the character of Sarah Jane Smith is actually really popular with fans, and K9 is also really popular with fans, especially with children. So they decided to make a child-friendly spin-off to Doctor Who about a cult that practices ritual human sacrifice to the goddess Hecate, who you can summon by saying Hecate, 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 Hecate until you sound like a steam engine. Personally, my favourite part of the whole pilot is the opening theme song, which features a synthesized soundtrack with John Leeson in character as K9 just shouting K9 over and over again. Meet Sarah Jane. She reads newspapers and you're interrupting. K9! K9! Using a typewriter and drinking wine, she's Sarah Jane. She might have left the oven on. K9! He's got dog tags. But whatever this thing is. She's Sarah Jane. She jogs. She sits on walls. K9 sits on walls. She drives a convertible in Britain. The top goes down and everything. He's K9. Newspaper. Wine. Jogging. Aww. Turn. Dog tag. Turn. Get back in the car, Sarah Jane. And don't forget K9. So since leaving the Doctor, Sarah Jane Smith has decided to go stay with her Aunt Lavinia in the sleepy village of Morton Harwood. We remember her Aunt Lavinia before. In her first appearance, Sarah Jane Smith pretended to be her Aunt Lavinia in order to get access to unit headquarters. Lavinia doesn't seem to mind though, as she's now given Sarah Jane complete access to her manor and is not even going to check up on her. She's also trusting Sarah Jane to look after her ward, Brendan Richards. When Sarah Jane arrives at the manor, she gets a phone call from Brendan saying that he's in a phone box. Sarah Jane tells him to have fun on his travels and to avoid touching any rock hands. After picking Brendan up from the station, Brendan tries to ask if he can stay with Sarah Jane for a while, and Sarah Jane explains that she doesn't want to be anyone's surrogate mum. You tell him, Sarah Jane. The last thing you want is to get lumped with a bunch of kids. By the way, if you want to get into expanded media, there is a story about this character that explains that he was a baby found on the moon in 1969 by the Brigadier and rescued and given to a human family. But he transformed into a human and lost all of his memories of being an alien, so it doesn't really matter to the story. It's up to you whether you even consider that to be canon. It's about as canon as saying that this is the Doctor's mum or that Dumbledore was gay. Back at the manor, Sarah Jane finds a crate that Aunt Lavinia has been taking care of for her while Sarah has been off travelling. Inside she finds a gift from the Doctor. K9. Now to be clear, this is K9 Mark III. K9 Mark I is still with Leela on Gallifrey, and K9 Mark II went with Romana into E-Space. K9 explains that he's been waiting there for Sarah Jane for a while. The year now is 1981 and K9 was dropped off in 1978. That means K9 was dropped off by the Doctor 2 years before Sarah Jane left. Sarah Jane is concerned as to why her Aunt Lavinia is not there, and so she goes off into the village to investigate. Whereas Brendan is more excited that there's a robot dog and now he can measure the pH of the soil. While Brendan and K9 are doing their fun soil stuff alone at the manor, George Tracy and his son Peter break in and K9 has to fight them off. Now that Brendan has seen their faces and can identify them, George and Peter believe their only choice is to kidnap him and sacrifice him to Hecate. This seems like the sort of problem that could be avoided by not breaking in the first place. But of course they needed to, because I want to be so truthful with you. I have tried so hard to work out why George and Peter break into the manor the first time. They go back a second time to kidnap Brendan and sacrifice him, but that clearly wasn't their plan the first time, because Peter's not on board with the idea of sacrificing right away. He has to be strong-armed into it, and the only reason he's strong-armed into it is that Brendan can identify them now. I've been back and forth through the episode trying to understand why they broke in. I can't figure it out. If you can, please let me know in the comments, because at this point I give up. So George and Peter kidnap Brendan and decide to sacrifice him to Hecate. Sarah Jane and K9 figure out that the sacrifice must happen on hallowed ground at midnight that night. So they search every church in the area before remembering that there's a chapel on the grounds of the literal manor that they live at. They rush back to the chapel and get there just in time to rescue Brendan. Sarah and K9 are able to defeat the entire cult by themselves, because since leaving the Doctor, Sarah Jane has taken a course in karate and K9 has taken a course in "Oh, that dog has a gun." So with Brendan safe and home, and Aunt Lavinia calling to say, "Oh, actually I was fine this whole time," Sarah Jane and Brendan sit down to listen to K9 singing beautiful Christmas carols. Oh, by the way, this is a Christmas episode. That's it for K9 and Company. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for probably Doctor Who?